asking for collateral. And the bank also should be able to creatively finance their exporter while minimizing their risk. Look at this. Export factoring is a complete financial package that combines export working capital financing, credit protection, foreign account receivables, bookkeeping, and collection service. Now, most banks that does this have a unit in the bank that handle this. The bank cannot do this. They have to probably have a subsidiary or financial institution under them that will handle it because it's a business on its own. Factor company are a business on their own, or a unit, an independent unit in the bank. A factor is a bank or a specialized financial firm that perform financing through the purchase of the invoices or account receivables. It involves discounting of foreign account receivables that do not involve draft or payment or draft for payment. Look at this. As a factor or factoring company, an exporter has come to you and said, "Look, I want to export. I need you to do something. When I want to export 500 metric tons of an item, but I have money for 100 metric tons. Look, my profit on this thing is 25% or 30%. I want you to be able to give me 30% when I've shipped." Now, a factoring company needs to be able to assess the risk because when you factor, it's without a recourse. The money you are giving is not a loan. As a factoring company, you are paying the guy in advance, so it's a payment. So if anything goes wrong, the factoring company is at loss. So it's not a loan. The factoring company needs to appreciate that. Now, but if you are dealing with in your record, you can see many shipments that this exporter have made. So the buyer pays regularly. The exporter have the competence to ship. So the risk on you as a factoring company has reduced. By the time the guy has shipped, he gives you the invoice. You as a factoring company, you are going to chase the buyer for payment. So he's going to introduce you to the buyer as the person to pay. So he's going to transfer the proceeds to you. So now you will be paying maybe like 70% you have given him. By the time the 100% comes to you, you now remove your 3, 4, 5% and pay him the remaining 25% if you are removing 5%. So, but you need to understand the fact that you are paying him in advance, it's not a loan. So there is no recourse. Very important. Export factoring is offered under an agreement between a factor and exporter, in which the factor purchases the exporter short-term foreign account receivables. So it's usually short-term because, there's nothing to cover it, so it's a short-term. It's something in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. Receivables for a cash at a discount on the face value, normally without recourse, and assume the risk on the ability of the foreign buyer to pay, and handles collection of receivables. So it's the one that will follow up on the buyer for payment. Thus, by virtually eliminating the risk of non-payment by foreign buyers, factoring allows exporter to improve liquidity so he can get money and start sourcing for more product. And that's why a factoring company will be doing a good job. A high risk though, but now that's why you have to critically assess the risk as a factoring company. Now, there's a modification of factoring. Although it's really without a recourse, you can choose to modify and make it to be with a recourse. So you get the person to give you maybe collateral or something. But if it's an LC that is used for payment, you don't have anything to fear. Because if an LC is used for payment, you don't have anything to fear again. You can tell them you need an LC for you to be able to factor because you are sure of payment. Now, thus, by virtually eliminating the risk of non-payment by foreign buyers, factoring allows exporters to increase liquidity position and boost competitiveness in the global marketplace. Factoring foreign account receivables can be viable alternative to export credit insurance, long-term bank financing, expensive short-term bridge loan, or other types of borrowing. Factor typically provides 70% of face value within 3 working days. So as soon as I ship, I present my invoice, 3 working days, I get 70%. And then the factor assumes responsibility of collection from the buyer. After final payment, the factor pays the remaining 30% less their service fee. So you're charging 5%. By the time you collect the 100%, you have your 70, you pay me my 30, and remove from my 30, you remove your 5% and pay me 25. So I have 95%, you have 5% as your fee for giving me money ahead. Invoice discounting. Invoice discounting is very similar to factoring, but there's a difference, and I will show you shortly. This is a form of short-term borrowing often used to improve company working capital and cash flow position. Invoice discounting allows exporter to draw money against his sales invoices before payment is received from the importer. To do this, the business borrows a percentage of the value of the sales ledger from a finance company, effectively using the unpaid sales invoice as a collateral for borrowing. So, the person has already shipped. He has come to you for borrowing. Under invoice discounting, is with a recourse. You as a bank that is doing invoice accounting, you are not the one that will follow up for payment. He is the one that will follow up. The buyer does not get to know you. Unlike factor, the buyer gets to know the factor, but the factor will follow up for payment. Most banks only discount invoice of receivables that have guaranteed payment through letter of credit, standby letter of credit, export credit guarantee. So you need something as backup for you to be able to do this. Invoice discounting and factoring, look at the difference. The essential difference between factoring and invoice discounting lies in who take control of sales ledger and are responsible for collection of payment. Look at this. With factoring, the provider takes the role of managing the sales ledger, credit control, and chasing the customer for payment. But under invoice discounting, your business will take control of its own ledger and chase payment in the usual way. So under factoring, factor chase for payment, follow up for payment.